Okay, hello everyone. In this year, I want to share you about my reading books, and this is my fourth reading books. Before this, I was sharing you about my first, second, and the third book. My first book is discussing about, or the title of the book is listening one, and the second book is listening two, and the third book is English purpose for special staff hotel. And this is my fourth book. Is have the title is listening three. In this book have 100 pages and have four chapters. So let's discussing about the chapter of this book one by one, and the first chapters is discussing about the job puzzles and crime and punishments. Okay, for the first is discussing about the job. The native speaker is discussing about or explaining about the jobs. In the jobs, we hear about the discussing, giving a reason, assessing qualities, occupation, personal qualities, listening for specific information, and predicting. So in this year, we hear about discussing about the jobs. So you just focus on the audio. So make sure yourself to answer this part, this question. So you should have a large vocabulary about anything. So it is very important to you. You should know about the little bit about information about the jobs. Next, discussing about the puzzles. In these puzzles, we hear about the describing, deduction, solving, games, puzzles clue, listening and matching, listening for clues, and checking answer. Okay, in this part, the native speaker is discussing about the describing the design, solving, games, puzzles clue. In this part is something have a relationship between the games or puzzles, some clues about something, uh, to escape something like that. So next is describing about the crime and punishment. Okay, crime and punishment is discussing about the describing, reporting, crime, punishment, listening for detail, note taking, and comparing. Okay, in this part is in the crime and punishment, or in Indonesian is kejahatan dan hukuman. This part is discussing about the describing, mendeskripsikan, reporting, crime, punishment, listening for detail. And in this part, you should focus about the describing about the crime and punishment, so you can get what they mean. You can understand what are they meant about. They are explaining, they are describing about the crime and punishment. Okay, the next chapter is discussing about the baby's brothers and sister. Yes, I think the baby's brothers and sister is maybe in family. In this part, they are discussing about the interview and everything. Remember childhood, babies, hospital, and siblings. Okay, so in this part is discussing about the interview. Yes, in Indonesian is something wawancara. And next is narrating, remember childhood, babies, hospital, and siblings. Okay, that is discussing about interview, remember childhood, and something like your environment in your baby's brothers and sister environment. Okay, next is discussing about the brief encounters. In the brief encounters is discussing about the recounting meetings, conversation, feeling, reaction, physical features, listening and note taking, listening for feelers, and judging attitudes. Yes, that's always the discussing about the attitudes. So you should know about the attitudes, the attitudes, the attitudes. Okay, next is discussing about the heart. In this year's in the heart, we are discussing about the story reading, reacting to a story, towns, bridge, predicting, guessing, comparing with unreasons, reaction following a story. Okay, this part is with we we will hear about the short conversation or short story reading. So the native speaker is explain or talking about the story reading. So back to yourself, focus on your audio, and you should understand what are they meant about the story readings. Okay, next. The third chapters is discussing about the take or advice, credit cards, and friends and friendship. Okay, the first is discussing about the take or the advice. Take or advice is discussing about the giving advice and describing visuals, driving sense, predicting, labeling, assessing importance of advice. Okay, this part is something is discussing about the describing visuals, or maybe using the uh, image picture to explain something. So the native speaker is explain something, but not for they are describing just with visuals. Maybe they are talking about the pyramid, pyramid from Misir. So they are talking about that then, and we are guessing what they meant about the describing. Okay, next is discussing about the credit cards. Yeah, in this part, they are talking or discussing about that describing uses, the raising credit cards, social values, listening for specific information, following the order of events. Okay, in the parts is discussing about the credit cards, describing how to use the credit cards, and the narrating, yes, narrating maybe to using the credit cards also, and social values, yes. And the last is discussing about the friends and friendship. In this part is discussing about defining, explaining friendship, friends, listening for key information, finding reasons, listen for pleasure. Yeah, that's all of this part is discussing about the friends and friendship. Maybe the characteristic of the friends and or friendships. So they are discussing about this. Okay, next. The fourth chapters or the last chapters is discussing about the learning language. In this part is discussing about the thinking about the past, describing stereotypes, giving reasons, language, learning language, matching, listening for detail, and note taking. Okay, in this part is discussing about the learning, how to learning the languages. Okay, I think this part is just discussing about this learning language. So you should focus on your audio and have large vocabulary to understand about it, to get about it. If you have the large knowledge about the vocabulary about the learning language, I think you can answer this part. Okay, next,